Hey everyone, this is MrAddOil again, helping you fight your today for your better tomorrow. And in this video, we're going to be talking about my best practices and tips when preparing for a software developer interview. So basically this video is going to be revolved around the Google Sheet template that I've included in a link in the description. So you might want to follow along by clicking that link and then making a copy of it for yourself and then adapting it to your own situation. But next we'll talk about, I guess, the highlights of that Google Sheet. So why should you prepare? Why is it super important to kind of go through this process for each and every interview or opportunity that comes your way? Well, first, preparation helps, right? Preparing and gathering all the research that you gather from a company, the role, putting it in one centralized location so that you don't have to take notes on a piece of paper or in a different location. You can all have it in one location for easy search up and reference. Second, it's really good for self-reflection, right? So once you've gone through a couple interviews, you can look over this Google Doc that I prepared for you, right? That you can create a template of and compare your notes, the progress, the progression of each different interviews and see what's alike and what's different. And then also you can reflect on things that you could have asked, information that you could have gathered during the interview with your hiring manager or recruiter. And lastly, this is super important if you're a hotshot and you got multiple offers, right? Having a well-documented Google Doc of your entire interview experience with detailed notes will help you make the best selection, best choice of which company, which role you should take. And it'll be really hard to do that if you were to do it, just freestyle everything, not document any of your interview process. And when it comes down to selecting between maybe 3 offers, you'll just be doing it on gut, instinct, which isn't a bad thing, but then you also want to be data informed. You want to look over your experience and be like, okay, these are the things I like, and here were the conversation notes from that interview that backs up that reason or that emotion, that instinct. Next, we'll talk about one part of the preparation research stage, right? And this is researching the company's product. You want to understand the pros and cons of it, your opinions of it, and just pure facts about the product on the company page and other third-party resources. Moreover, you want to have some sort of system to kind of approach analyzing that company's product, right? You can use frameworks like SWOT, like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of that product. And you can use that to analyze, give structure to analyze that product. And you can add on other things like trying to figure out who the ideal customer profile is for that product, what challenges this product solves, and just even drill it down a little bit more, figure out the exact users and figure out their problems and why this product will be a match. Next, you want to do some research about the company's strategy, right? You want to understand what differentiates that company against its competitors. I mean, there's going to be another section that you want to do just for the company's competitors, but in terms of company strategy, you want to know what are they up to. Are they trying, this year, are they trying to raise funds if they're a startup? And if that's their main goal, try to understand and make some good assumptions from the data that you aggregated from Crunchbase, LinkedIn, their own company website. Just trying to piece those informations together and try to figure out their strategy. This usually comes from their mission statements, their values, or their product value prop, right? You can kind of formulate what the company's strategy is from understanding those fundamentals of that company, and also comparing it historically and how they changed as a company from leveraging resources like Crunchbase, which provides a historic view of when they raise funds, when leadership has changed, and etc. Next, you want to do some research about the company culture. And then under this topic, you want to explore the company values, culture, in a sense of like, you can do a quick search on like Glassdoor to get, actually even before Glassdoor, go onto the company website and try to see if they have a culture or values page. Read that first to get some unbiased, just like first assumptions of what you think about this company without having any other biases when you read comments on like Blind or Glassdoor. When it comes to company culture, like these are the things I look out for, right? I look for if they have like strong values. Like examples will be like they're very transparent, people oriented, etc., right? And then next, you want to kind of look at their culture page and see if they have like a diverse workforce, right? That it's not one-sided, because then that can really influence the way you would interact with your coworkers or just the vibe of the office environment in an everyday setting. And you also want to research the leadership team, like the people who are in management or places of authority, right? You want to see and do research on their profiles, look at their previous work history and see how they led. You can kind of find that out either on their company web page where they have a dedicated section for the leadership panel, and then you can explore deeper by looking at their LinkedIn. Usually, culture and company values is a top-down approach. It comes from the leadership team, CEO, and the executive team, and it gets pushed down to like middle management and then eventually down to the employee level. And so when you're evaluating an opportunity, you want to really vet out to see if the leadership team is reliable. Would you trust them to lead your future? You know what I mean? And then based on their style, based on their values, that's going to dictate the company values and ultimately the culture. And culture is super important because it's the underlying like values that people hold and practice day in and day out. So if a company practices bad values, that will just translate to them having bad habits, and bad habits means they'll take bad actions when push comes to shove. And it's just a really tough situation, or it's just really hard to live in that situation where the culture is bad and it'll just influence everyone in a negative way. And lastly, culture is super important because, if you're just like an individual contributor, we'll just talk in this perspective. Like, you heard the saying, right? People don't leave companies, they leave managers. And then that happens because managers or people in authority positions in a company, they basically enforce, or they're the representatives of that company. They're the company's value, mission, and culture. So you want to kind of evaluate it from the leadership perspective, because if the leaders are bad, you're not gonna have a great time at the company, and then you're gonna want to leave. Lastly, you also want to find out, when you're digging into history and doing research, if you found out that there was a recent layoff or there was just high turnovers for a specific position or stuff like that, you want to really dig in and investigate the real reason why. Because then that's a very dangerous situation to be. Like, if you were to join that company, start that role, your role, your job could be in jeopardy if you do not understand, the things that are playing in the background. And lastly, you want to do some sort of like light competitor analysis. Depending on the roles that you're looking for, if you're a software engineer, like, it's still helpful to understand the company that you're applying for, their competitors in that landscape, but not as much as like someone who's like doing sales or is in a customer facing role, right? For those type of roles, you would really want to do that competitor analysis, but for a software engineer, it's not as important, but it's nice to have, and when you do it well, it will make you a more informed candidate for employment. Similar to how you would evaluate the company that you're applying for, their company strategy, their product, you want to do the same type of approach for their competitors. And also be more honest, be like, will this competitor destroy the company that I might work for? Like, will they beat them in branding, product strategy, even like employee? Like when it comes to like an engineering team, right? There's like you guys probably heard, like when Twitter was bought for like $1 billion from Facebook, the team wasn't that big. It was just like probably less than 20 people on the engineering team. But then Facebook bought them out because those like 20 people, that engineering team was super powerful. So when you're researching competitors, you want to look at the key players in these departments that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a software developer role, you want to look at your competitors' software engineering team or their product team and be like, what is their work history? And that's all I have for this section. So a quick recap, we just talked about just the very beginnings of doing proper research to prepare for your interview, right? And we're talking about when you will only start doing this when you get a response from a company saying that they're interested and you scheduled a phone interview with them. And then when that happens, then you want to start off by doing some research on those points that I mentioned in this video. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how you can prepare a template for yourself, a base template of how you would basically conduct any type of interview, and then we'll talk about that next.